I mean, when you look at everything that's happened since the pandemic, the reality is there's been so much that has changed when it comes to the way that we deal with people and everything that's people related within our company. So when you look at today, there's a major war for talent. So we see in the media all the time, it's a great resignation. And the reality is, I think a lot of people have had the opportunity to really kind of reflect on their lives and really try to reprioritize kind of where they want their life to go after the pandemic. It's really about the culture of the organization and how we go about extending our company culture to our remote working employees. One of the first things we have to do from a mindset, from a leadership mindset, is we have to change it from seeing our people as a line item on a financial statement and start to really recognize them as being an asset. We've got to be able to really shift away from the hierarchy mode of being sitting in our at the top of the pyramid and giving orders and instructions, and really kind of come down into more almost of a community style relationship, so that we get to know our people, we get to know them even on a personal level. The CEO, they need to be involved in that interview process, to really spend some time with the candidate, or particularly your final candidates, to communicate to them what your company culture is, and to really give them a sense of who you are as a person as well. What we ended up doing with them was we actually ended up taking their leadership team, pulling in a couple of their managers, as well as a couple of their employees, to form almost a committee. And so they're using that committee to really brainstorm and to bounce ideas off of this group. And they're getting different perspectives from different levels of the organization. And the employees feel like now we're being heard. What we're finding, studies are showing that those employees that are working from home or working remote are really 3 times more engaged than employees that are working in the office. And that is true as long as there is good quality conversations that are taking place on a weekly basis between that remote employee and their managers. I think there's a major shift right now taking place to where we just need to be having constant communication, constant conversations with our team, and giving them feedback, both positive as well as the negative side of those communications as well. But just do that along the way, because I can't tell you the number of times over the years I felt like I didn't know for sure whether I was meeting expectations or not. Am I doing well or am I not? So many people have told me it's just great to be able to schedule technology breaks throughout the day, to be able to just get up from my desk and go outside and just go for a 5-minute or 10-minute walk, and to be able to come back. And that helps really keep their energy level up, and gives them some clarity from a thought process as well. Professional employer organization. And a PEO, for the listeners, is basically an organization that comes alongside of the business owner and really serves as their HR their HR department. So in essence, they provide the payroll service, they provide benefits, in many cases, the workers' comp, the HR compliance. So they handle the people side of the operation. And I think that in a lot of cases, that model is a really, really good model for companies that are, particularly companies that have between 10 employees and 100 employees. I've just had a client about last year in 2020, before the pandemic hit, and they had been with, a large PEO for, about 3 years. They'd not reevaluated at that point. And, the reality was we went through and helped them with that process, conducted interviews with about 5 different PEOs, and actually narrowed that scope down to really the final 2. And then we did interviews directly with the companies. At the end of the day, the company, they're saving over $200,000 a year. One of the best books I read recently is actually titled Remote Work. And the author is Chris Dyer. And he's actually got a podcast as well, but I highly recommend his book. He and his co-author have both started and continue to operate remote businesses today. And so they lay out basically the strategies and the process, and really give you a lot of application in the book as to how you go about building a remote business and how you go about developing that culture for those teams. And so I think that's something that I've been a huge fan of over the last couple of months. I've experienced over my years, I've experienced the thrill of the victory as well as the agony of defeat. And when I think back, for me, the greatest learning experience comes from the agony of defeat. So the one thing that I recommend, and I wish that I would have had in place years ago, was I wish I would have had a mentor or had a coach or an accountability partner, however you want to describe them, had people like that in my life that I could talk with and use as a sounding board. Because if I would have had that, it would have provided me the guardrails that I needed to keep me from driving a company that we owned, driving that off the cliff. So I think that's, for me, is something that I can't stress hard enough to my clients, is you've got to have people like that you trust and that you're willing to be really transparent with, and you've got to be willing to be coachable as you go through that. I looked at starting WhiteWater Consulting, just real quick, the backstory on that was I was in a canoe with another gentleman. There was 4 of us, 2 canoes in Canada for 3 weeks straight, going through the lakes and the river system in Manitoba. Did not see a person for 3 weeks. We're going through what we thought were going to be 2 sets of rapids. We go through the first set. It's perfectly fine. We're approaching what we think is the second set of rapids and realize it's actually a waterfall. And so the 2 of us in the first canoe, we were scrambling like crazy to get out of the current to try to get to safety. We are losing the battle. And all of a sudden we hear a guy that's in the second canoe giving both of us very, very specific instructions on what each of us needed to do. And in a matter of about 2 minutes, we were able to get out of the current and get to shore. So the things that I took away from that is being able to have that coach that's had real life experience is critically important. But even if you have that experience, being able to communicate that in a way that is confident, is concise, and that people can really understand is really important as well. And so that's ultimately what I wanted to be able to do, is to use my experience over the years of operating small businesses and be able to help my clients navigate the waters of employment.